Hey Derek, so we are going to make our simple beef stew in the Crockpot video for you. I'm going to give you a couple different options, and I want you to send me a picture of your first batch of beef stew, okay? So the first thing is I've got two different groups here. These are the things you absolutely have to have. You need some beef stew or beef broth. If you'll notice, it's just like a container of beef broth. You need stew vegetables because that has onions, celery, carrots, and potatoes, which are pretty key. I just got a simple packet of stew for beef. You need a little bit of salt, and of course you need a crock pot. Now to make it better, you add these couple of things. You have a pan to do a little bit of frying. You have, this is actually flour, regular all-purpose flour. A Ziploc bag, or you can do a bowl, but a Ziploc bag's a little easier, and some parsley and basil leaves. Okay, so I'm gonna give the phone to Lauren, and she's gonna watch me do it. Okay, so the reason you need a bag is the best way to get a nice thick beef stew where it kind of thickens up a little bit is you need to have flour around it. So what I'm gonna do is take all of this, all these beef parts, and we're going to put them in the bag. Pretty easy. Then you're going to take, oops, sorry, I just realized I got to get a big old spoon out of here. Then you're going to take about, for this much, you're probably going to take about, let's say about 2 rounded tablespoons of flour, and you can kind of eyeball that. It doesn't have to be exact, but the main thing you're wanting is just to coat the beef. So I'll show you here in a second. I like to add a little salt here as well, so just like a little dash of salt. And you close the Ziploc bag, and then you just play with it. Right? So all you're doing is trying to get a little bit of flour on the outside of each piece of beef. And sometimes you have to play with them because, see, they've been in the package and they're sticking together. So you want to make sure they pull apart. Each piece gets a little bit of flour on it. Now, if you were doing this and you're noticing that it's still really pink and not very white, you could add a little more flour. But you'd rather have a little too much in there that you have to throw away as opposed to not enough. Okay? Just a big old piece. There we go. Actually, you know what? I might even need, because if you see here, see how these are really dark pink and there doesn't seem to be any flour left in there? I'm actually going to add just a tiny bit more flour in there. There you go. Set it back up. Here. Keep on shaking. Nice and coated. Okay. Now you could also have put pepper in here as well, but since I'm allergic to pepper in this house and they don't care as much, we don't even have any in our house. So even though I'm making this meal for them, I would normally have pepper, but I didn't have any in the house. So next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your skillet onto your stove, and this is actually something I forgot to mention that you will need, is a little bit of oil. I always use olive oil because it has a higher temperature before it starts smoking, so it's a little bit better to use, and it's pretty healthy too. So you're going to want to put just enough in. I don't know if you can see that, probably about like that, so that when it gets hot it's going to coat the pan really well. And I'll turn that up to probably right about there, and we'll let the pan start getting hot. Now while we're doing that, we can go ahead and start getting some of our other stuff ready. So we'll take the crock pot. I'm actually going to move it over here because it's kind of an out of the way spot for the whole day. Plug it in. And in here, you can go ahead and add your beef broth and your vegetables. So you can do both of those things. Bring this knife over. Oops, scissors. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to do any pairing of the vegetables. You just pour them right on in, and that's it. These have a little bit of extra freezer burn on them because our fridge died the other day, and I caught them when they were only a tiny bit thawed before I threw them in the freezer again, so it'll do that. So that's fine. I mean, if you see chunks of it, as long as it's not like wilting in, and even then it's just going to taste old. It's not going to be bad for you, so try and get a fresh bag whenever you're ready. And then the beef broth, which is super simple. You just pour it in. Now you can use water instead of beef broth, but it's not going to have as rich of a taste. But if you have everything but the beef broth and you forgot it for some reason, you can just use water, but like I said, the flavor is not going to be anywhere near as strong. So, okay, get my spatula here, and if you notice, this is starting to get kind of warm, so it's spreading pretty easy, which is exactly what you want. I'll let that get just a little bit warmer. See, I can put my hand here and it's warm, but it's not hot yet. So hold on, we'll do that. I'm actually going to go ahead and add in my basil leaves and my parsley. I don't really ever measure anything. So for the basil leaves, you're going to want to add, let's just say, you know, probably like that, which is probably going to be like a good tablespoon. You just put the basil leaves in there. And then the parsley, I love parsley, so we always add a little extra parsley. I would say probably, that's what I did to the basil. Probably I like to do it 2 times, but you can do it only 1, and that's perfectly fine. So just stick it in there. Okay, now if you, I don't know if you can see this, but if you see the oil is kind of starting to separate, even though it's still on there, that means it's going to be nice and hot, okay? So this is where you might get a little splattered, so I'm going to have Lauren back up a little bit. So you're going to take these beef pieces, and you can actually just dump them in there. Just make sure you don't get the plastic bag touching your pan, okay? So you can just take these and dump them in. All right, I might turn the heat up just a wee little bit. If you notice, there's just a tiny bit of sizzling. And the point here is not necessarily to cook the beef. I probably should have turned it up a little bit higher. But just to brown it a little bit. So, yep, some of those I didn't quite get fully apart, but that's okay. So here, you're just trying to get a nice brown coating on each piece. So you don't have to saute it. Don't keep moving it around like you're sauteing up, like when you scramble eggs or something. You just want to let it sit on there for a minute, and then when I think they're getting a little brown, I'll flip them over. I'll get a little bit brown on another side. Now the reason you put it to the beef, you put the flour to the beef like this instead of just putting flour in there to thicken it up, is this actually coats itself to the beef. It helps the beef to stay together a little better, so you just don't have beef mush. It also doesn't clump in the crock pot, so that you get a little more watery with just clumps of flour in there. So that's why you do it on the beef. Kind of a twofold thing. Now, like I said, you can skip this step, but your beef stew is going to be more watery, and your beef, depending on how long you cook it, could just kind of like fall apart and just be like, you know, beef mush. But I mean, it's not bad. It still tastes all right, but this is going to give you a much, much better beef stew. Starting to smell good now. The one thing you want to make sure you don't do is over salt your beef stew, because you can always add more salt later, but you do want to make sure you have some in there. So I'd put a tiny bit in there, but I'm going to go ahead and give it like that's probably 1.5 teaspoons or so. Maybe that's probably closer to 2 teaspoons. And I'm going to put that in there as well. That was the one last time. Spice, I forgot. Now that's also where you can add in pepper if you want. I would probably do like a teaspoon of pepper. If you wanted to add it in, you could do it right there. I'm going to test this. And yeah, it's starting to brown. So I'm going to turn it down just a wee little bit. If you notice, those are kind of getting a little brown there, which is exactly what you want. Put these over. And the main reason is you just want to get if you can get it brown on each side a little bit. Ooh, that's starting to get very brown. That's hot. I'm going to use this. You're just going to get better coated beef stew. And if it's a little bit brown like that, like where that one's kind of burntish, it's okay. It's still gonna, you still want to do that too much. Come on, little thingy flip. You could also just get the spatula in here and try and flip them all over. But this you tend to get it's a little more even when you do it this way. And the nice thing about this too is if I didn't get some of these flipped quick enough and other ones are starting to get really brown again, I just pull them out with my fork and throw them in the beef stew. So like, that one looks good. I'm going to throw it in there. Sometimes on the really big pieces, I like to try and get brown on maybe more than just the 2 sides. If, you know, it's a big old chunk and it looks like it has 4 sides. So you have that option too. Throw that one in there. Remember, you don't have to worry about them actually being cooked all the way through, because they're going to cook in the crock pot. This is just to give them a little browning and to get the flour thickening on there. So, yeah, these are looking good. Put that one in there. This one I think I want to do a little bit longer. Now, I have a cast iron, so it stays warm a lot longer than most pans. So I'm going to go ahead and turn mine off, because it's going to keep with the heat here for a while. I might have to buy you a cast iron because it's awesome. I love cast iron. Cool. You know, I think these might be good enough. So, I'm going to go ahead and would use my handle, but it's behind more. So I just used my rag. Put them all in here. Now, the one last thing I like to do is get a little bit of water. Film that. I'm going to get a little bit of water. I'm going to put it in a cup here. And see how that's like really hot? This is going to splatter, but it's going to be really, really, really good. Yeah, so I'm going to mess up. This, I'm going to scrape it a little bit. This gets all the good crusty stuff off of your pan. Kind of cleans it, really. But you're also getting all the good flavor and stuff that got stuck to that pan, right? So, what I'm going to do with this, because this is all still good of flavor and a little bit of the flour as well, is I will take this and put it in here as well. Okay, so now you've got all the flavor you can get out of there for your beef stew. And then you just kind of mix it in there. Like that. Turn your crock pot. It depends on how long you're going to be gone. If you're doing this in the morning before you leave for work, I just stick it on high. I'd rather it be cooked than not cooked. So, I mean, if you're going to be gone 10 hours for a day, you can put it on low. If you're going to be less than that, especially because those vegetables were frozen, I would put it on high, and then you'll find out what you like and how you like it cooked. But I'm going to put it on high. We're going to let it sit here for a good while. Dad's out today. He'll be back this evening, and so we'll have a nice pot of beef stew, and that's it. I love you, hun. Show me a picture of your beef stew when it's done, okay?
Bye, Derek.